All right, well, as you guys know, I'm James, I'm the CEO of Connect. If you're not familiar with Connect, it is the world's first accelerator. It was an accelerator of innovation. Before that was a word, based out of San Diego, but copied in 50 countries around the globe. We help our founders with pathways, proof, and platforms to move faster and further and to make connections like this, so this is great. This fireside chat is about a painful truth in cell and gene therapy, that science earns attention, commercial clarity earns funding, adoption, and patient access. Today's going to be really practical, a great conversation about what scientific founders might miss about pricing, reimbursement, and access, how investors can evaluate commercial readiness, and how we can build those business capabilities early and together without slowing down the science. As we have that biotech CEO, that investor, we're going to get some great perspectives, joined by Chris Barkley, CEO of Swissfinity Group, and my longtime friend, Raphael Agnar, CEO and co-founder of Enkelt Therapeutics. So let's get into it. I want to fire right away with our first question to set our stakes. Why do you think commercial becomes the blind spot for scientific founders, especially in cell and gene therapy? And at what point does that blind spot become non-recoverable?
First of all, thank you very much for being on this panel. A short organizational information to all of you ahead. We do show at 3 p.m. together with the Advanced Therapies Week and Emily Whitehead Foundation, a first preview, world premiere of Carl June's most recent bike ride, 1,200 miles. Carl June and his friends from Gulf to Goat. That's the name of the video, and hope you stay tuned until 3 p.m. at least. Thank you.
I won't let them leave. I'll go stand at the door.
I was running a company called Barkey. We have been early on working together with Novartis and Kite Pharma on their first commercial products, Yescarta and Kymriah. We have been fortunate that we could design the, let's say CGT manufacturing pathway together with them. This company was acquired 3.5 years back from Azenta Life Science, and I'm now running with that event a venture fund by myself. My name is Chris Barkey, and happy to join this panel. Raphael, I would allow you first to do the introduction.
Yeah, thank you. I'll do a quick. So I'm Raphael Agnar, CEO, co-founder of Enkelt Therapeutics, early stage cell therapy technology focused on allogenic to be able to bring an off-the-shelf technology so we can bring more patients under cell therapy. I've been in the business for 30 years. I have a big background in big pharma, but for the past decade, more on the entrepreneur side. This is my first time CEO job. I created the company. I invented the company with my co-founder. So we're a little bit different than most people because we don't have the academic backup. But I would just say, as kind of a kicker, is I heard earlier this morning where it was, we were stating on different panels that the science needs to be well executed. You need to validate the science. I do agree with this, but I am sorry to say you're not going to raise money on science. You're going to raise money on a path to a commercial outcome that's going to make people able to convert their investment into more money. That's the reality of business. So our job as early CEOs is to not discount the scientific aspect. You need to validate the science, but you cannot make the data up. You generate the data, then your responsibility is how do you build a company with limited resources, extremely limited resource, probably not enough people, even not enough knowledge, and go to the big players and say, we're onto something, and if you support us, you're going to make money because we're going to treat a lot of patients. And so there's this kind of conversion, there's almost like a natural tension that we need to deal with because it's not necessarily compatible up front. So that's kind of, I really believe that I'm a scientist, but I have a business background because I did all my time in pharma on the business side and drug development side. And I'm still convinced that you need to show a path that is sustainable. If you cannot have a proof that you're going to make money at the end, why would people put money on you? Let's be honest.
So you think that blind spot is falling in love with the science too much and losing sight of kind of the end goal?
I think you can take the risk. You know, how many times I heard your science is so cool, it's so great. Yeah, none of these people gave me money. So it's really about ensuring that the science is a given. We have plenty of vehicles to prove the science. You present to big conferences. We had our first in vitro proof of concept as an oral at ASH. I don't need more to prove to you that what I'm doing is good. I can do publications, I can do data and all this. What matters, I need to believe that the story can go all the way to the end with something that's going to have a commercial outcome. Because we don't, I mean, unless you talk to philanthropic people, that's a different story. But if you talk to people that want to make business, they need to know exactly that what you're going to develop is going to have traction and is going to have a market.
Chris, you agree with that?
Thanks, Raphael. I would agree, and Raphael summarized that beautiful, that excellence in science is not enough when we do not combine it with commercial relevance. Means, like you, Raphael, I'm coming out of a business which was 40 years producing tools within CGT. And what we have seen is, if you do not include at least a thought about who is paying, how much he is willing to pay, and under what circumstances these, let's say, potential payers are doing this. And this is resonating with what you said, Raphael.
So Chris, I want to dive a little deeper into this and kind of the investor lens and how you choose to fund things. So when you're evaluating an early stage company in this space and advanced therapies, what are the top 3 things that you look for that separate what is a great science project, as we just kind of heard about, from an investable business? What are those 3 things that kind of tick your boxes?
Thank you, James. For us, since we are new, but I was, as I said, in a CGT tool company before, and I think this applies also for any other company here in this field, is first of all, is the team, did they really performed substantial due diligence on the commercial relevance? Without having this in mind and not doing at least some simulation, what we feel sometimes that companies tend to have a great idea, but not having the reimbursement in mind. That's the first part in my. The second is scalability and access. Means for whatever you do and invent here, you have to have a clear understanding about how this technology, either it's tech or science, is accessible, and accessible always goes along with reimbursement. So again, costs. And the third part is whether the team, the setup of the team, is able to, let's say, scale as well as develop themselves into that direction. Because scientists or founders or inventors not necessarily have an eye early on these topics.
Absolutely, and often the wrong team is assembled early on and changes need to be made, and it's hard to do that sometimes, and that's honestly where investors can come in and kind of help see holes and gaps that either need to be filled or swapped out to have the right commercial acumen. And with that, Raphael, I'd love to switch back to you and kind of, so say we get past the love for the science and you've started to understand the importance of the business. What is the most common mistake you've seen kind of founders in your situation make who come from a science background when they first start hearing about pricing, reimbursement, access, commercial work streams? What do they underestimate? What are the things you wish more founders knew? Well,
first, I'm a little biased because as a scientific background person, I have the love of science, obviously, and I will not be able to push whatever I'm pushing if I didn't believe in the science. That's the first kind of criteria. But every founder that is scientific is going to believe in his science. And I like what you said about it has to move out of the science project. It's not a science project. It has to be a business. So I got exposed because I started my career, surprisingly, maybe in marketing for a decade. So all the aspects of, access, commercialization, reimbursements. It was my day in and day out, work. So for me, the first thing I remember I did when we created this with my co-founder, I immediately put together a 5-year projection of what it would like to build that business. How much money we would need, all the kind of potential outcomes that we need to, the milestones and whatever. So it was already clear in my mind that I needed to do this. Now, the thing I got surprised with is how the incentives of the different investors could be significantly different. It was mentioned earlier in one of the panels, angel investors, they want first, they need to believe that what you do can have an impact, because it's more kind of, there's almost like half of the heart and half of the money that comes out for them. But their goal is to have a quick outcome, a quick exit. It's like how they're going to put like a little money, and they don't want to be heavily diluted and come out in 10 years with like of course good money, but they want a faster takeout. The big investors, they're looking at the further long big picture, the big money, and how they can really make a strong exit and not necessarily a rapid exit. Now, those lines are being blurred. This is concepts that I didn't face it with Enkilt, but when I was doing some consulting with other early stage biotechs and helping some scientific founders, I realized that it was a concept that they couldn't even think about it. They was like, well, we just need to prove that it works first. I said, yes. But I was literally saying, consider it works. Because if you're pushing is that you want to believe that it's going to work. Consider it works. How do you sell that story? How do you make people believing in it? And there is a clear underestimate from, I think, early stage founders that the story is extremely important for people to believe in the science. I heard earlier also, the science doesn't sell by itself. The story is going to sell.
And that story has to be focused now, because as we've seen, capital is contracted. And if you're trying to sell 30 things you can do, it seems like you're not focused, and you have to really pay attention.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this. There's always a mistake to say, oh, we can do everything. Like we can go, with Enkilt, in theory, I can tackle all cancers. All of them. The target we're going after is expressed in over half of cancer cells across all type of cancers. So in theory, it's a magic target. It's fantastic. I use as a provocative statement, I can be the Keytruda of cell therapy. And people are going to look at me and say,
when you're sitting with Chris, what is your story now when you're sitting with Chris to get him interested before you turn to that?
Well, what I focus on is saying there are some patient population that require a scalable technology because they are large populations. I'm going to take colorectal as an example. With all respect to the impressive impact of CAR-T, I will never be able to, I don't think anybody can scale a autologous CAR-T technology to treat 50,000 patients in a year. You can't. You can do that with an antibody. So we need to get to the level of technology that will be at least competing with other technologies that they can get to patients in an affordable and accessible way, and down the road, cost effective. So the story is about defining a niche where you see that you can have really an impact from a scientific perspective and medical perspective, and then build your model on it and say, if I can sell my technology because it's going to work to 50,000 potential patients down the road per year, I'm into something.
And Chris, from your perspective then, so we always say, you say you've seen one biotech company, you've seen one biotech company. The same for investors. They all want to be approached in different ways. So when someone is coming up to you to help these people who are in the wheelhouse that you're looking for, what is the best way to bring a story to you? What do you want to hear first?
Raphael mentioned it beautifully, that the narrative around the company must be crystal clear. A sharp concept with a very, very clear business model behind. If you do not embed the commercial thinking early on, you might not convince anyone, even though you have a great story to tell. And it's about feasibility. We mentioned scalability, automation, of course, the population with, let's say, Raphael's approach with his company, that he says, okay, I can tackle various cancer types, but he will pick the ones which are the most convincing and impactful on the storytelling. And I can't agree more here on this one, Rafael, because we have seen this all, and it dilutes the company's value and therefore also, let's say, being impactful and meaningful to the potential investor. And of course, the investor's characteristic also plays a certain role here.
And every investor, and you mentioned this earlier, is interested in the reimbursement strategy. But often when you're a founder and you've got early stage data, you may not understand how to think about reimbursement. So I want to test out to both of you. So say you're at that compelling early data, but not really that, that really detailed pivotal data moment. How do you start thinking about your reimbursement in those early stages so that when you ask about reimbursement, you actually have a good story? And I toss that out to both of you. What is the way to do that in a credible way when you don't know everything, but also shows that you're on the right path?
Yeah, where should I start? A target product pipeline. In this case, give me a little moment for this one, because I can only refer to my experience, and I would not claim that this is the all-over answer to all the potential targets or companies we are looking at. But for me, personally, beside the team and, of course, the business model behind, I definitely challenge with only my knowledge out of the CGT tool world. And I would say otherwise you have to ask certain experts if you're not fully convinced whether this flies or not. But for me personally, team, business model, commercial approach needs to be early, let's say, included.
Yeah, I may say something that's going to trigger some reaction to the audience.
Do it.
But number one, we kind of do know what is needed today to, what is the rule in terms of reimbursement, how the different players are acting. We have I would not say a great understanding, but a good enough understanding to try to do the right thing. I'm going to use some commonality. Now it's obvious that you're not waiting for phase 3 to start to put PROs and other metrics to be able to show that your therapy has a benefit that is, beyond just the therapeutic benefits. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's it. I would not say it's an easy one, but it's an obvious one. But I also want to challenge, in some way, the idea of if you don't have a path to reimbursement, you're done. There's a drug, I'm going to repeat it again because it's a little bit of an incredible model, that made in 2025 over $25 billion of revenue, and the second drug behind made around 10 or 11. We're talking of the PD-L1 antibodies. I guess if they made, and overall it's a $50+ billion market currently in oncology. If there was issues really in reimbursement, we would never be able to have $50 billion spent. Okay, and those drugs are not cheap. They are given to patients for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, even a year and a half. Some patients are under those drugs 2 years or more. We're talking about $500,000 for some patients that is going there. So yes, the difference is $500,000 in 2 or 3 years. So maybe it's easier to swallow, but it's still a huge amount of money that goes to that. So I think it's about not necessarily being blind by the fact that, yes, we need to prove that it's cost effective, that it has a benefit beyond just the clinic and all this. But I keep hearing for decades that the price of drugs are going to drop in the US because they are way too high, and they continue to raise. That the European market, because it's based essentially on government negotiation for the price of drugs, is not a market to go anymore because you're going to have a low price on your drug. And yet we still have drugs approved every year in Europe and commercialized. Maybe they could make more money, but there's still a business case. And what about all the countries where there are absolutely no private market and where an expensive drug has no chance, and yet we continue to push? I think it's about finding the good niche to make it profitable for the companies, but also being mindful of what you are bringing to the table and show that if you want to be successful, you first need to have a benefit for the patient. If you're smart enough, and I believe in technology to improve the cost effectiveness of what we're doing, you will then be able to have a benefit that goes beyond just the clinic, and that can have maybe an impact on improving the reimbursement approach.
Chris.
Raphael, would you agree that these companies do not fail on biology rather than being maybe too expensive, like you said, or too complex, or maybe being delivered in the wrong system?
Oh, that's a tough one.
That's a good question.
I mean, we keep discussing with some of my peer CEOs and colleagues. The science is the science. We work in an environment where if it was predictable, it would be easy. Like everybody could do it. You may have super results preclinically and you cure cancer. How many cancer did we cure in mice? All of them. How many cancer did we cure in human people? Not so many. So there is
a statement that Elaine Ham always says, it's mice lie, monkeys exaggerate, and humans fail.
Yeah, but what I'm saying here is that what I want to go to is that the science aspect, I want to believe, because that's the nature of science, that it's still going to have that unpredictability that that's why we have to do all those different trials and all those different validations. When I started my PhD back in the days long ago in neuroscience, actually the hypothesis that everybody was super hot on that I was working on have been proven completely wrong, and is actually now considered as non-existent at all. So this is science. Mm-hmm. It's not that it was wrong, it was right at the time with what we knew. And so we're always going to have this. Our job as executives of company, and job of the investors also, is knowing what we know. How do we ensure that if that hypothesis holds, we will be successful in delivering?
Yeah.
If the hypothesis change, then we need to be able to pivot and readjust and say, well, the new field is this now, but we still have the obligation of being successful in delivering. So I think it requires vision, but it requires also adaptability, and be ready that what you said yesterday, someone may say the opposite tomorrow because the science led you into a different direction.
Well, and we touched a bit on how important it is reimbursement and who pays. And in all science, that's very true, but especially in cell and gene therapy, it's a very complex market in advanced therapies. And so Chris, I'd like to turn to you, because these economics are really unforgiving. You have manufacturing costs, complexity, delivery, long timelines. How does that information play into how much you're willing to put in to advancing something, and at what moment or what milestone triggers you to put money in to fund an expansive clinical operation, kind of into clinical trials?
With, let's say, being with Novartis for so long especially, and I was having my office directly at their campus in Switzerland, I can tell logistics triggers me, Raphael, because let's say, logistics were a hefty part of the entire, let's say, supply chain. We heard in the previous panel that end-to-end, and that we have on-site, let's say, modalities nowadays seen, unfortunately, not as a breakthrough so far. We heard in vivo, but with the knowledge I have after all these years, also being with Novartis for so long, I can tell that I look at the commercial risk if they become really irreversible, when you no longer unwind them from the development process. And I'm looking especially into this nowadays, that I have the topics covered like you mentioned. Otherwise, I know the reimbursement part will be very tough.
So one of the things that is a paradox for me on even this conversation we're having about today's topic is that we need to be able to see the future and be ready for it. On the other side, if I don't clinch my next milestone, who cares?
There's no future, right?
Who cares? So it's I need to know what is supposed to happen, but I also need to be very focused. Currently, my focus is that I want to get an IND to be in the clinic in 2 years. I need to fund that and ensure that I deliver what is needed to have FDA and maybe in the future EMEA and other countries giving us the authorization to start clinical trials. And I will always use a thing that, an analogy that I explain to my team and to whoever wants to hear me about it, is that a biotech company is 3 companies. It's a discovery company first, where you build a new technology, you have to prove your case, you have a ton of preclinical data, you build the rationale, the science needs to hold, and then you're going to move into a clinical stage company, which is a completely different company, and maybe you need a different team. You bring a clinical team, but you may need even a different CEO. You don't know. Maybe it will be better with someone that has done it. Or you partner with a big pharma because they have the footprint and they know very well how to do clinical development. And then there's the third company, which is the commercial company, which is also a completely different DNA that you have to have. So we need, as early CEOs of biotech, we need to be able to tell investors that we understand that. Mm-hmm. But I'm not the commercial guy.
Oh, and you have to be willing to step out to let that person step in.
And maybe I can be that guy, but what I'm saying is that today, whatever's going to happen in the commercial side when I'm going to be have an approved drug, right, it doesn't matter, because it will only exist if my team pull off an NDA so we can start a clinical trial. Yeah. So my focus is, how do I get to the NDA? It's not lack of ambition. It's being realistic to what we have to do, but I'm claiming also loud and clear, I know that this is just a one step. Then we have other things that need to do, requiring other skills, and of course, larger funding to be able to cover the cost.
So we have about 4 minutes left, and before I have these guys wrap up, and I want to have you on time for lunch, do we have any questions out there that we can't see because the lights are blinding? So just, if you have ones, oh, Rory's got it. Yay, thank you, Rory. Of course, it's the whole way across the room. Now you know how I've been all morning.
Thank you so much. Great panel. I'm Ted Slocum, founder of a firm called TS Bioadvisors. I'm ex-head of global market access for Kite, ex-head of global market access for gene therapies for Astellas Gene Therapies. So a lot of the themes that you've been talking about and how you're thinking about folding in, health system considerations, commercial market access considerations into, how you're shaping your company's programs and how you're investing in programs really resonates. I think it's really great. You can't start these things too early, honestly. Advice to all you therapeutics developers out there. My question for you, and I'm seeing this with some of my clients, and I'm wondering how you guys are dealing with it. There's obviously, when you're private company, mid-clinical stage private company, it's all about funding to that next clinical milestone, that next key milestone, proof of clinical concept, maybe some tech ops proof of concept behind that. But now, as you guys are saying, people are getting more sophisticated about market access, pricing considerations. How do you, as advisors, investors, and as leaders, balance, the sort of the investor demand to do that short and quick clinical proof of concept study with maybe the right study to be doing to set you up for long-term commercial success, the right comparators, the right product configuration. Yeah. How do you balance those tensions and deal with those tensions as investors, advisors, and leaders in your firms today?
You cry a lot?
So I'll be violently honest on what I'm going to say. I think we don't know how we are doing this. I think we're just trying to do our best based on what we know today. And I don't think there's a bad or a good way of doing it. It's just like, put a plan. I'm a planner. For me, it's everything needs to be mapped out, because when I have something mapped out, I can allow myself to deviate. I know what is the path. And then I can go on a tangent because I feel like maybe it's the right one, but I always know that I need to get back at some point. So it's really, for me, it's a lot about planning, scenario planning, having options, A, B, and C. Sometimes my team says like I'm overdoing it because I have like 3 scenarios for whatever thing. But this is how you can not be surprised. And guess what? You will be surprised still. So I think the more you put up front, it can be a little bit bogus. You know, like I keep saying, I have a 5-year P&L and I have a 15-year forecast. Who cares about this? But maybe one day we'll get there. So at least I will have something that I can look back and say, oh, I was crazy, or maybe I was not so crazy. But it's really about planning. For me, it's really about like, put your scenarios in place. Don't believe that one shot is going to be the right one. Be ready to have a need for a plan B and plan C. And at some point, just deliver. We need to execute. I think what the biggest issue we face in our industry, probably the biggest challenge, is not falling into poor execution. There are too many things that can make us not executing perfectly. Lack of resource, lack of knowledge, lack of skills, everything. We still need to pull it off. So you can have the best strategy. If it doesn't have leg, you're out. So I will reinforce the fact that scenarios and execution.
Yeah. Chris?
Being mindful with the time, James and Raphael, I would combine this with my closing words. It's less, let's say, a milestone than more a path of dependency. Once you take decisions, economics can't walk back. And this is my advice. Show strong economics in order to convince any potential investor or further fundraising.
So the thing you should do next week, because that's our closing, is if you don't know your strong economics next week, get those down and bring those next time you sit with an investor. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Is it LinkedIn, email?
LinkedIn is a great way to get in touch. Just send me a message. It's an open system. Don't worry.
And Raphael, the one thing people should do and how to get in touch with you?
Go get it. Just go get it. Seriously, go get it.
There,
Get out there, meet people, allow yourself to stumble and fall, climb up again. And I'm a rock climber, so we always have a thing. There's only one way. It's up. So keep going. And more seriously, I would just say, surround yourself with people. Nobody achieves anything alone in this business. It's way too hard, way too difficult. You need help, even if you pretend that you know. Get people around you that are going to make you even better at what you're doing if you're already good. And if you're not that good, it's going to make you grow. I've been growing for the past 4 years thanks to this community that we have here. And you can reach out to me by LinkedIn anytime. I'll be happy to do this.
Thanks, Raphael. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
For me, also, it's LinkedIn. I say when you reach out to any of us, just put in your note, like a random LinkedIn request means nothing to folks. Put in there, hey, I enjoyed your panel at ATW. It's huge. And the one challenge I'm going to make to all of you, it's something that one of my staff reminded me today in our Dwayne Roth years at Connect, which is our 2.0. Remember the rule, no one stands alone. If you see someone here, they're on their phone, they're at a table by themselves, walk up, say hi. You never know what that might bring to you.
Agree.
Thanks, everybody.